Alrighty, so the game tonight involving MLS team in the CONCACAF Champions Cup is in the books, and it turns out to be a perfect night for MLS team against their CONCACAF Champions Cup foes, as not only both FC Cincinnati and Nashville was able to get the win, but both of them also kept a clean sheet. So, the first one we're going to talk about between Moca and Nashville, I was a little bit concerned for Nashville SC because when I saw the stadium that this game was taking place, yeah. This is the same stadium where we saw the infamous upset where Violeta was able to win 3-0 against Austin FC, and that this is also the stadium where we see that wonderful tree right in the end line. And I thought for sure that maybe the ghost of Austin FC past was going to haunt Nashville in this one, and to Nashville credit, they didn't let that startle them. In fact, it turns out to be the opposite scoreline as what we saw with Austin FC losing to Violeta just last year in the same stadium. And as I mentioned, this is the same stadium of Austin FC infamous loss against Violeta. If you're an Austin FC fan and you're basically just checking out this game, you must be having some PTSD kind of moment. You're kind of almost having like that meme where that dog is looking and there's like a lot of Vietnam War kind of imagery in the background because yeah, I don't think any Austin FC fan and any Los Verdes fan want to remember that stadium ever again after the disaster that we saw last year. But that being said, again, it didn't really start on Nashville because they took the lead just 12 minutes in, and who else but Hani Mukhtar? He scored from Surridge to make it 1-0 in favor of Nashville. Boyd did try to go for another one, but he hits one right to Ramirez, and it's been mostly Nashville early on this game with the better chances, and to no surprise, they make it 2-0 relatively quick, as in the 24th minute, Surridge, who of course assisted the previous goal from Mukhtar. Well, it feels like it's reverse order now. It's actually now Surridge, the one that scored from Mukhtar to make it 2-0 in favor of Nashville. Now, keep in mind, both of those players didn't actually make it to the 90th minute, and this is where I'll talk about how maybe there's a little bit concerned if you're a Nashville SC fan, seeing both of those players came off because of injury. But up to that point, possession was 63 to 37 in favor of Nashville, which is kind of unlike Nashville because, this is the team that doesn't usually like to have possession. But I guess, when you're facing against a much more inferior team, you pretty much have to have possession. And that's exactly, I guess maybe that was kind of the plan for Mocha, trying to see if Nashville can break them down. And at least early on, Nashville did a good job in terms of that. And this is definitely good news for Nashville fans because this is going to be something that opposition is going to do against them. See if they can, of course, break up the bunker down. And at least early on, Nashville did a really good job of it. But also, it's just a combination of Mocha just being very bad in terms of their defensive shape. But in the 34th minute, as I mentioned, this is where the concern starts, where Hani Mukhtar had to be subbed off after walking gingerly off. Now, obviously, I think that was just for a precautionary reason. And knowing that you're already up 2-0 in this game, I know Gary Smith is not going to take any risks, especially with the way that they have their season opener against the New York Red Bulls. But yeah, let's hope that Hani Mukhtar is okay. I think he should be okay because again, it just feels like it's more of a precautionary reason. And they did have a good replacement for him as Jacob Schaffelberg came into this game. And you can also hear some Nashville SC fans doing the NSC chant. Great representation in terms of some of these MLS fans travel all the way down to the Dominican Republic. We even saw it here in the Cincinnati game where some fans made their way to Jamaica to cheer on their team. But you can definitely hear the NSC chant as the corner was about to take, as that's kind of the tradition for Nashville every time when they're about to take the corner. But in the 37th minute, Mayer with an awkward shot that actually hits the side netting. Before there was a huge shout for a penalty in the 38th minute as Angeles thought that he was brought down by Moore in the box. I think that was the right call. That was definitely the right call. And I've got to say, refereeing in this CONCACAF Champions Cup, at least so far, it's been pretty good. I mean, at least so far, I haven't really seen a lot of controversial moment. Maybe the one controversial moment that we saw was the game between Houston and St. Louis, where the goal that scored from alley probably should have counted because it didn't look like Harris Gale was in an offside position. But that being said, most of the refereeing has been pretty good, and most of the refereeing doesn't really buy into in terms of these CONCACAF shithousery that you see a player went down way too easily in the box, and that give referee kind of take the bait in terms of calling a penalty. But yeah, no penalty was given, and again, it was the right call because you can clearly see that was a dive in the box. There was another shout for a penalty for Moca not given just 1 minute later, and I thought Nashville was started playing a little bit fire at the back. Again, as much as I know Moca is trying to dive and maybe trying to win the penalty, you also don't want to play with that fire of trying to maybe stick a leg out in the box and potentially make the referee think about maybe I think that is called a penalty even though it looked more like a dive. But in the first minute of stoppage time, Willis did deny Angeles from close range. Mocha really pushed hard as the half goes along, but Nashville was able to survive and they take the 2-0 lead heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Drew Yearwood, oh boy, this is one that he would want to have back. I mean, he should have scored this one. He was close to scoring this one from the near post, and he missed wide there. I mean, that's kind of one of the issue, of course, with Nashville that they don't really have that legitimate goal scorer. Though I will say that in this game, it is a little encouraging seeing not only Mukhtar gets on the score sheet, but also Sam Suric getting on the score sheet too. He's going to be a guy that has to carry the low alongside with Tyler Boyd, who is another guy that I think will carry the low, mostly on the attacking and the creative department. By the way, Tyler Boyd had a really good game in this one, and tonight kind of just shows you why they decided to buy him from the LA Galaxy. Speaking of Sam Surge, he had to come off, and he actually had to come off because he collided with his own teammate after a diving header, and it looks like he might have dislocated his shoulder. So yeah, that's ouch kind of moment for him. And again, Gary Smith not taking any risk there, knowing that his team is up 2-0 already. So yeah, he came off. Bunbury basically replaced him, which that probably is not going to give a lot of Nashville fans a lot of delight because Bunbury has been a guy that it's hard to believe he's still with Nashville SC. Considering that he pretty much have done nothing for this Nashville team for a long time. But in the 56th minute, McNulton almost scored an own goal after he had an awkward touch that puts the ball onto the post. So almost a shades of Amr Tarek. And again, it was also in the same end too, where Amr Tarek scored that own goal right under that beautiful tree, just above the goal. And that, yeah, well, this one is not as bad as I think as the Armor Tarek. I mean, the Armor Tarek own goal is still gonna be go down as one of the craziest, one of the worst own goal you'll ever see, and that of course include when Jacob Glesner scored it into his own net against Saprissa just a couple of nights ago. But yeah, that's one that had again like the ghosts of Austin FC and the ghosts of Armor Tarek almost haunt another MLS team, and Lucas McNulty almost was the victim because of that. With that being said, on the other end, McNulton hits it wide following the corner in the 67th minute, and despite being 2-0 up, I just feel like Nashville hasn't really been clinical besides the first 25 minutes of this game. And they probably have heard me, or at least Jacob Schaffel probably heard me, because in the 70th minute, he put the ball into the back net. There's only one problem. He was in an offside position, and it wasn't really that close. I mean, he was at least 3 or 4 yards offside there, so the goal was disallowed. But the good news for Nashville, they would score either way just 5 minutes later, as Tyler Boyd scored from Bunbury to make it 3-0 in favor of Nashville. Again, if there's any player that deserves a goal in this one, it's got to be Tyler Boyd. He was really good in this game, probably put in a man of the match kind of performance, and that this is kind of a guy that, I've said it before. While he's not going to be a guy that's going to score the goals for you, he's going to put the work rate on the attacking end, and he definitely show you that throughout this game. And also, not to mention his first career goal for Nashville SC here. We then see our first yellow card in the 81st minute after Bunbury looked like he lightly elbowed a Mocha player in the face while trying to shield the ball. And I wrote Pete CONCACAF moment because, yeah, it is pretty clear that Mocha player went down like a sack of potato, and that is just a typical CONCACAF yellow card you will see. I mean, I think that out of any competition, that is kind of like a CONCACAF moment, and maybe one that you can basically put in the bingo card where, yep, a player gets a yellow card despite the fact that not only they didn't elbow their opposition, but their opposition basically just decided to have an Oscar worthy of it. or dive down and try to earn the yellow card, and indeed that of course it is the case. And then on the other end, Thomas had a rare opportunity for Mocha, but he puts it just high on the free kick. And yeah, in the end, Nashville, they were able to win 3-0 in this one. And just like Orlando, they're in a very comfortable position where, in that second leg where they play against Mocha next week, they pretty much don't really need to put their starter in those games. And that also, not to mention, they're also one step away from getting that revenge match against Inter Miami in the second round. And I've said this before when the bracket was released, that's going to be one heck of a second round matchup. And, I always love when there's a CONCACAF Champions Cup matchup that is an all MLS CONCACAF Champions Cup matchup. And it seems like we might get two in the second round this year, but none other than the Inter Miami versus Nashville game, especially from what we saw in the Leeds Cup final last year. So yeah, it looks like that could be a reality if Nashville can, of course, just take care of business in the second leg and have a massive advantage heading in the second leg as well. Shots in this one, 11 shots for the 6 that Mocha has, 1 shots on goal for the 7 that Nashville has. Both teams had 4 shots that was off target, no shots that was blocked from either of these teams, which is kind of a bit of a surprise. But possession-wise, 58% possession compared to the 42% possession that Mocha has in this game. Now, moving on in the next one, it's Cavalier and FC Cincinnati, and I feel like this game for Cincinnati, this is almost a microcosm of Cincinnati of last season, early in the season, where we know that they're a good team and we know that they have a lot of weapons, but it just feels like they just kind of lack that clinical finishing that we've seen at time where they kind of like grind out 1-0 and kind of victory. And for a long time, it looked like this was going to be one of those games. Now, to Cavaliers' credit, they played very well in this one. They defended very well in this one, and it had to be because when you're facing against a Cincinnati team that has the reigning MVP and all the weapons, you have to defend it well. They even mentioned that it's been 1,000 minutes since they have last conceded a goal, so it's kind of no wonder why Cincinnati had a really tough time trying to break down this really resilient Cavalier defense. That being said, Cavalier actually had the first opportunity as Calvin heads it wide from close range. Kubo had the first shot for Cincinnati, but his shot took a deflection and goes wide, and then Bear would hit a volley right to White there. Cincinnati again started to dominate possession, and that's an understatement because they pretty much took over this game up to this point, and they were looking for an opener. There was a shout for a VAR chant in the 12 minutes. So again, if you have that in your bingo sheet, then write that down and cross that off because yeah, it looked like one of the Cavalier player went full Oscar mode before the free kick was taken. It looks like he was trying to dive to win a penalty, and yeah, the referee was having none of it. I mean, again, this is something that makes the CONCACAF Champions Cup special where you usually see these kind of shenanigans kind of thing happen, and that there's times where I have seen where even the most craziest shenanigans would actually worthy of a penalty, but obviously in the age of VAR, and I think maybe that's why the refereeing has been better. Is that since every single game now in the CONCACAF Champions Cup has VAR, I think that's is where you can't really get away with some of these most obvious kind of Oscar kind of dot mode kind of dive that we've seen players has got. But that being said, I will also say that I've said before where even though VAR was introduced in this competition, the people that operate VAR is the same people that is refereeing this game. But again, so far, so the refereeing in this competition surprisingly has been very good. And now watch how it's going to be probably bad in future competition. And I apologize if I jinx that in the future. But that being said, in the 16-minute, Acosta would hit one right to White on the free kick. Santos then in the 21st minute has a wide open shot from 4 yards out, but this is Sergio Santos, so he's not allowed to score a goal. He's been kind of snake bitten for a long time, and he puts that one right to White there. Cincinnati again was knocking on the door, but the question is, can they show that clinical finishing that was lacking in this one? No, but before I even get a chance to finish writing that, on the other end, Santano had to deny Russell from close range. That actually turns out to be the only shot on goal that Cavalier and Roman Salatano has to to deal with, but in some way they had to do so because Cincinnati got caught on the transition, and this is where I wrote Cincinnati's got to watch out for those transitional moments because that's what Cavalier was looking. They were looking to bunker in, trying to hit Cincy on the counter attack. And to Cincinnati credit, they did a good job in terms of neutralizing that. Although that was that one moment where they didn't do a good job in terms of it. In the 27th minute, Buka would puts it way high from long range. They pronounce it Buka, even though before I always pronounce it Bucha and something like that. I guess that's the correct pronunciation. Again, I'll get better in terms of pronouncing some of these players' name as the season goes along, especially from hearing the announcer how they pronounce it. But White on the other end or actually White would then deny Acosta from long range there in the 33rd minute. Almost, I keep thinking that this guy is Brian White that plays for the Whitecaps, but instead this is I think his name is Giovanni White. That's the goalkeeper for Cavalier, and him alongside with this backline had a really good game in this one. And if it wasn't for him, this game could have probably been more uglier than the 2-0 scoreline. But the shots were 5-2 for Cincinnati. Now 33 minutes into this game, Wobedo would then be victimized by the post in the 35th minute, and it was kind of a little Randall Leal kind of moment, a little shot cross there that almost went in. But in the 38th minute, he had another opportunity, but this time his shot was deflected wide there. Again, the pressure was mounting, but again, it's just can they finally break through and can they finally undo this Cavalier defense that has been very resilient? The answer is they did. And this is literally on the stroke of halftime. And remember how I said Sergio Santos has been snake bitten? Well, it looks like he's snake bitten no more because he scored here from Heisey to give Cincinnati a 1-0 lead, and of course this happened right before halftime when I actually already was gonna walk out and get something from the pizza shop just a couple of blocks away, and of course Cincinnati scored right at the last minute, and I missed that goal. Good news is I did see on the highlights there, and it was a very good goal there from Brett Hazley. He basically puts one right to Santos, and as much as Santos has been kind of snake bitten, that's one that he's not gonna miss. And yeah, that gives Cincinnati a 1-0 lead, and that will be the scoreline heading into the second half. In the second half, not much happened really in the first 15 minutes. Cincinnati was still having most of the possession, and really they kind of looked like they put their foot off the gas. It feels like they were just kind of going through a training session, kind of not really moving the ball too fast. And again, I don't know if that's them just trying to save their legs for the opening game against Toronto, or the fact that it's kind of weird the fact that they decided to do it even though it's a 1-0 game. Valenzuela would then puts it wide off the deflection before Kubo would blast one just high off the volley, and then he had another opportunity in the 68th minute, but he hits one right to White. Again, Cincinnati they're ramping up the pressure once again. Can they get that second goal? Well, Acosta tried to do so in the 71st minute, but he puts it high from long range. The shots were now 10-4 for Cincinnati 72 minutes in, which that cannot be correct because as we'll see in terms of the shots in total, there is no way in the world that 71 minutes in we only had Cincinnati leading the shots 10-4. Like there's no way in the last 20 minutes Cincinnati had 18 shots in this because I didn't think that Cincinnati was really peppering the Cavalier goal. Though that being said, in the 81st minute, Buka would rush the top of the post off the volley. Cincinnati had some really good volley shot. I mean, Kubo had a volley shot earlier that almost went into the back of the net. And then in the 82nd minute, it looked like Valenzuela scored his first career MLS goal for Cincinnati, or in this case, first career goal for Cincinnati in general. But unfortunately, he was in an offside position, so the goal didn't count. But in the 87th minute, Cincinnati would eventually get that second goal. It's Malik Pinto. He scored from O'Donius to make it 2-0 in favor of Cincinnati. Acosta trying to make it 3, but he puts it high from long range. And yeah, in the end, Cincinnati, despite the fact that at time they were frustrated by a really compacted Cavalier defense, they still were able to walk out with a 2-0 victory. And again, the shots, that has to be wrong around the 71st minute when I look on the website and it's 10-4 because again, there's no way Cincinnati got 18 shots, or maybe it's just that the website is probably wrong at saying that there's 28 shots compared to 6 that Cavalier has, but more or less that's what it says on the CONCACAF website. 28 shots compared to 6 that Cavalier had, 7 shots on goal compared to 1 that Cavalier has, 3 shots off target compared to 6 that Cincinnati has, 1 shot that was blocked for the 9 that Cincinnati has, And possession-wise, 77% possession compared to 23% possession that Cavalier has. I mean, Cavalier was just pretty much parking the bus throughout this game, and that's again is why it took a lot for Cincinnati to try and to break through. But still, they'll be happy that they of course got the victory and got the multiple goal victory, because now I think for Pat Nolan, they can afford at least to. I mean, they'll play most their starters on the weekend matchup, but then in terms of the next midweek action, when both of these teams meet in Cincinnati and at TKL Stadium, at least Pat Nolan doesn't really need to put in his full 11 to finish off Cavalier at home, and then have a matchup in the next round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for my review for both of these games. As always, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of both of these CONCACAF Champions Cup game involving MLS team. We're going to be back at it next week with all these teams playing in the second leg, and it seems like for most of these MLS teams, look like they're going to be moving on into the next round. We could probably have even a perfect record in terms of MLS team going into the next round. Well, I say that, but then I realize there's an all MLS matchup between the Dynamo and St. Louis. So unfortunately, there's going to be at least one MLS team that's going to be eliminated in the first round, besides the Vancouver Whitecaps. But mostly, I think they should be able to move on into the second round, considering we have a couple of teams that already have big advantage heading into the second leg and playing at home in their second leg of the CONCACAF Champions Cup first round matchup. But yeah, like I said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.